Hello and welcome back to Let's Get Your Shift Together. Today I'm going to talk about the type of positivity that we don't really understand is toxic, and I'm going to just jump right into it and get straight to the point. And this might be shocking to some people, but in my opinion this is a bit of a problem, and it's making people be more negative than they think they're being. So we see it on social media every day. Hashtag positive vibes only, stuff like that. Why be negative? Because you're just wasting your energy being negative, blah, blah, blah. And while I do agree with that, and there is definitely truth to the fact that being negative is not necessarily helpful for anybody or anything, the thing that I have a problem with is when we get bombarded with these messages of be positive, we lose sight of the fact that there is a process to being positive. And I don't even like calling it positivity because that just gives it a whole connotation, and I think positivity has this whole reputation with both sides of the equation. So the fellow negative people see positivity as just like this achievement that they'll never be able to reach, and the positive people see positivity as like a way of life or whatever. I think that it's a process, and there's not one way to be positive. There's multiple ways to be positive. While we could all benefit from being more positive, and I'm sure we all collectively agree with what the pretty little memes on Instagram say with the nice little backgrounds and the pretty font, that positive vibes are a good thing. I think that there is a dark side to this because the people preaching and bragging about how positive they are don't really tell you how they're being positive. And in my opinion, that is the dangerous kind of toxic part about this whole thing. Suggesting to somebody that they're too negative doesn't accomplish anything. Telling someone that they need to be more positive also does not accomplish anything. It's one thing to see an inspirational quote on Instagram and resonate with it, and you know, that can kind of inspire you to start making changes. But I don't think just one meme on Instagram is going to be able to harbor long-term change, and I don't think that anyone really discusses how to make that long-term change. If anything, it just increases the negativity of the people being negative, whether they're consciously aware of this or not, and whether the people propagating this message are conscious of it or not. So, for example, if you're a person who you have accepted that you're kind of negative, you have anxiety, you're kind of depressed, whatever it may be, you're aware of the fact that yes, you have negative tendencies, you tend to see the not great side of things, and you've kind of had these patterns in your life that have caused you to be negative. For the most part, in my opinion, I think it's completely understandable that you would be negative. And if you read something online that tells you that you should be more positive, because then you're gonna manifest whatever, that could actually make you more negative, because if you don't know the steps to take to even start being positive, you're not going to get anywhere with this process, which there is a process. So if you're genuinely resonating with these whole like positive vibes only type things, and you're genuinely trying to be positive, you might do something like repeat a mantra to yourself on maybe a daily basis. It might last you a total of 3 days, and then you're gonna give up because you're not positive yet. And because that's kind of how I feel Instagram suggests to people that that's how you can be positive, by just repeating it in your head over and over, and I don't think that works. I think you need to get a better understanding of yourself in general and of why you think the way you think before you can actually make these changes. If anything, you're being bombarded with these messages of be positive, be positive, be positive, and you're gonna start wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be positive? And I know this because I was that person. I was constantly being told while I had chronic pain that I'm being negative and I should be more positive and things might be better for me. And that's a bit of a slap in the face because it's kind of suggesting that like, okay, so if I was a positive person, I wouldn't have chronic pain. I wouldn't have gotten shingles in my mouth and trigeminal neuralgia thereafter and wanted to basically decapitate myself just because I am negative, not being positive enough. Like, excuse me? So I started wondering really like, what's wrong with me? Because I'm trying to be positive, but I never understood how to be positive. So I would read these mantras, I would do these positivity meditations and whatnot to just kind of be less upset, I guess, about the chronic pain that I was going through. And it did absolutely nothing for me. So eventually I started questioning what the hell was wrong with me. I started to kind of think like, okay, maybe I am just fundamentally negative and there's no hope for me to be positive, and that's just who I am, and that's just how I'm gonna have to deal with it. Now, having gone through the process I've gone through, I would not necessarily consider myself an overly positive person that's all sunshine and rainbows all the time, because that's absolutely impossible. And anyone who seems to be that way is probably on drugs or full of shit. So the people who do preach this over and over and brag about it, they're either people who are completely full of shit, like I said. They have no kind of life experience that would have caused them to even be negative to begin with. Like maybe they had a kind of sheltered life, or, you know, they didn't have these adverse childhood experiences, teenager experiences, adult experiences that just kind of kept repeating themselves over and over and over to be able to even grasp what someone else could be going through. So their reality is a positive reality by default, and they can't even wrap their heads around what you might be going through. Therefore, in their minds, it's like, my reality is what my reality is, and shouldn't yours be that way too? So hashtag positive vibes only. And that's like the last person you want to take any advice from, because they have no clue what they're talking about. Like, no disrespect to them or anything, but they're just not helping at all. The messages are good, but to kind of, I don't want to say prey on people who are in a bad place, but kind of, in my opinion, it's just kind of a slap in the face to the people who genuinely do want to make this kind of change. So yeah, basically just the idea that their reality should kind of be your reality just doesn't make any sense. The key to positivity, or what I like to call it, a healthier mindset, is not necessarily just the act of being positive, because yeah, sure, you can put a smile on your face, fake a smile, and you'll feel better, yes. But in order to create long, sustainable change, you need to know which steps to take. So think about a fridge in your house that is completely filled with rotten food, okay? Think of your mind as that metaphorical fridge. It's filled with just your experiences, your thoughts. If you've had a shitty upbringing and a pretty shitty life, like, there's gonna be crap in there, and you're probably repressing it, which is causing you to be where you are today with chronic pain, chronic anxiety, chronic illness, whatever it may be. And you're obviously on this video because you want to make some sort of change. You need to excavate pretty much everything that is in your brain that is not pretty. So the rotten food, it's been in there for an extended period of time. You're not just gonna throw the fridge in the garbage, because that would be like impossible. Like, let's just call it impossible, because you can't throw your brain in the garbage. It's a very uncomfortable, yucky process to get this rotten food out of the fridge so you can make room for the new food that you're gonna go grocery shopping for later. If you go grocery shopping right now and you bring the good food home and you try to stuff it into your fridge, that's a problem. Where is the rotten food gonna go? If it's already overflowing, we have an issue here. So pretty much just look at taking inventory of the thoughts in your mind as taking inventory of the rotten food that's in your fridge. It's disgusting, it might make you cry, it's going to make you very uncomfortable, but you have to do it. It's something that just has to be done in order to make room for the good stuff. You basically have to take every piece of rotten food out of your fridge one by one, acknowledge that it's there, see what it is, and then throw it out. Works the exact same way with your repressed emotions. My first suggestion on my first step on what I think one should do to change their mindset on anything is to dig right in there and figure out why these thoughts are there, how long they've been there for. Acknowledge it as a thought, because a thought is just a thought, it's not the truth. And then you just have to release it. So you just need to throw it out once you have acknowledged it, but you can't throw it out until you are confronted with it. So you need to get that thought or that experience or that repressed emotion, look at it, acknowledge it, be with it for a while, and then you'll see that that repressed emotion or thought or whatever is not going to have so much power over you, and you will be able to throw it out. One way to do this that I would strongly recommend, that I've talked about in previous videos, is by journaling. So Dr. Sarno has put in his books, and all the other TMS experts out there have talked about how important it is to do the journaling. You basically 20 minutes every day, just start writing, and you might not get anywhere with it right away because this is years of repression that we're talking about. But by doing it every day, you're gonna get to the root of the problem at some point, and you just have to be kind to yourself. So with the fridge analogy, you're not gonna start swearing at your fridge because it has all this rotten crap in there. It just is what it is, and that's fine. You just need to do what you have to do to get that rotten stuff out. So I hope you're following, and I hope this made sense. Another thing I want to add is that this is not going to be an overnight achievement. Nothing in life is. And the other thing that I think Instagram is dangerous for is the suggestion is that you can just change your mindset overnight and whatever, and everything's going to be all honky-dory, and that's just not reality, and it just doesn't work that way. And you're gonna have to be uncomfortable. That's just how it is. And the thing is, your reptilian brain is wired to basically make you think that by being uncomfortable and feeling these uncomfortable things that you're gonna die. Like, it literally thinks you are going to die if you feel these repressed feelings. Your brain thinks that the feelings that it's repressing are more dangerous than the pain you're feeling. And by proving it wrong and by basically excavating everything out of there, you're gonna prove it wrong, and it's gonna get easier over time. You just have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be consistent, and you have to actually do it. Because if you don't do it, you're not gonna get anywhere. And by just reading a mantra over and over and over, you're not gonna just brainwash yourself into being more positive and then not being in pain anymore. You're going to drive yourself crazy, and you are going to make yourself think that there is something fundamentally wrong with you, which is not what you want to be doing for anything, because that's just you're going to just start beating yourself up. You're going to start hating yourself even more, and you're not going to get better. And if you want to get better, you have to be uncomfortable. It can take an entire lifetime for some people to figure this out. So the sooner you start, the better it is. You don't have to wait until your house is flooded to get out of there if you can see the water is on its way. So if you're in a not so bad place right now, you can still take these steps today to prevent being overwhelmed by your pain in the future. If you are already overwhelmed with your pain right now, you definitely should start doing this right now. And it's never too late. It's just going to take a bit longer. It might be a little more uncomfortable than it would have been if you had started, say, a year ago, but it's never too late to start. And if you continue going the way that you've been going, you're just gonna make things worse for yourself. So you just have to ask yourself, how much longer do I wanna suffer? That's a hard question to answer, and that's a hard question to think about being a question, because it kind of sounds insulting, and that's not my intention whatsoever, but it's the truth. If you're suffering, you're in pain, you want to get better, and you know kind of the steps that you need to take, or at least you know what the first step is, not taking that first step is just going to prolong your suffering. So you need to ask yourself, how much longer do I want to suffer for? How much longer do I want to stay in this negative loop of my life? And am I really willing to put in the work and the effort into improving my life and into uncovering my repressed emotions and really getting an understanding of why I am the way I am, and also being compassionate with myself, because you are the way you are because of your experiences, and no one can blame you for it, and not even yourself, because you wouldn't have known better, and you still don't know better until you start actually doing the work. So my challenge to you is to just start journaling, see how it goes. Do it for a week, then do it for a month. Log how you feel after maybe every week interval. See how it goes. You're gonna have relapses because your brain wants to go back to that familiar state, and that's okay, but just keep going and keep it up, and you will eventually start getting some results. In conclusion, the only way to be positive is to feel your repressed emotions so that you can make room for happier emotions. If you think of it this way, if we go back to the whole Instagram hashtag positive vibes only type of culture that we seem to surround ourselves with, how can you possibly have any room for artificial happiness if you have years and years of repressed sadness, anger, guilt, grief, etc.? How can you possibly have the room for either artificial happiness or actual happiness and positivity and whatnot? It's not possible. And you need to do the work to be able to get better. I hope this resonated with you, and I hope this is helpful and a good first step for you to start going on the path towards actual positivity and not toxic positivity.